Hello and welcome to another round of Championship predictions from the On Sport podcast. I'm Craig Savage and with me, as always, is Mr. Daniel Cody. Let's have a quick recap of the Championship in the last week. Start off on the weekend's action. No perfect scores, quite tight over it. Daniel Cody wins by 6 points to 5. However, in midweek, there were 4 games and one perfect score overall, and that is Luton Town winning 2-0 at Reading, and that was mine. Let's get on with match day 28, which is starting with a derby, the 7-side derby. It is Bristol City versus Cardiff. Two teams not really in good form. I'm feeling a 0-0. What do you think?
No, it's going to be very bold to predict Bristol City to keep a clean sheet after letting in 6 against Fulham last weekend. Both teams, as you mentioned, not in the greatest of shapes. Bristol City, I know there was a little bit of talk in the last week or two about their published accounts, which weren't particularly good. Cardiff, obviously, haven't really had the big pickup under Steve Morrison. Their defensive record is atrocious, and although it has improved a little bit in recent weeks, they still ultimately lost against Blackburn. And that's the problem. It seems like they can't really tighten up the defence without sacrificing some of the attacking class. They lost Ryan Giles, who was recalled to Wolves, and they've lost a little bit of attacking talent there too. So I'm not quite sure where the service is coming from for the likes of Kiefer Moore or James Collins. And they've got to look over their shoulder. They're only 4 points clear, sorry. They've played a game more than Peterborough. They could be in real trouble here. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game opposite to you, but I think it's going to be a game full of mistakes. And I'm going to bank on Bristol City to edge it just because they're the slightly better of a bad bunch. But you've got a team that have conceded 44 and a team that have conceded 45. So if you predict 0-0, you're the boldest man on earth.
I said 0-0 in the question I gave you. I'm feeling a 0-0. This doesn't mean I'm actually going to pick a 0-0 because these two teams haven't obviously done well. Lately, Bristol City conceded 6. There's a lot of pressure on Nigel Pearson at the moment. Cardiff, obviously, they played well last week against Blackburn, but they didn't take the chances, and Blackburn took their one. I'm going to say 0-0. I'm going to go for a 0-0. It's not going to happen, like I said for other scorelines in the past, but I'm going to say 0-0. Sorry, guys. Next up is another derby. It's East Midlands derby. Nottingham Forest versus Derby County. Forest winning 1-0 at Millwall. Late on, Lewis Grabban with the winner. Derby beating Sheffield United 2-0. This, I think, is obviously this definitely won't be a 0-0.
Well, you say that. I think it's got more chance than the other one, to be honest, because Derby County scored their only 2 shots on target against Sheffield United, albeit a brilliant solo goal from Tom Lawrence for the first. Forest, I think the worry there is, again, a little bit like previous seasons, I guess, or the most recent year and a half. 24 shots on goal, but they relied on a 91st minute winner. I guess the positive is that Lewis Grabban was there again and did get the goal. But the goals are just starting to dry up. In all competitions, it's 2 goals in 4 games for Nottingham Forest. Obviously, one of those against Arsenal in the Cup too. So I think this is going to be a tight, cagey game. Derby are going to try and frustrate Forest because the last thing they want is to be put back to the bottom of the league or out of range. And I mean this politely, Derby have got far bigger fish to fry and bigger things to worry about than an East Midlands derby at this point, to be brutally honest. Equally, they'll be looking to stop the Forest playoff charge. I'm going to go Championship's favourite scoreline. I'm going to bottle it. Sorry.
I'm going to go for a Forest win. Also, it's going to be lively. Early kickoff live on Sky. If it matches the repeat of last Saturday's early kickoff on Sky, then happy days. Obviously, lost a couple of players. Graham Shinney's now gone for 30 grand to Wigan. Lost Phil Jagielka the week before that as well. So a lot of experiences is going, which is a shame. Forest riding high. 2 late winners in the last 2 weeks. One in the FA Cup against Arsenal, obviously the Millwall game, both by the same guy. So Lewis Grabban's back in scoring form again. I'm going to go Forest to win 2-0. Next up at St Andrews, it is Birmingham City versus Barnsley. Birmingham joined the I just got trounced by Fulham club, and Barnsley haven't played for a long time.
No, and obviously for the last 2 episodes, you can copy and paste what we said about Barnsley v Barrow. Barnsley yet to win an away game in the league, second worst record after Peterborough. Birmingham, one of the worst records at home. Similar story to last season now, only 4 wins out of 12. I haven't got a clue in this game. It's so important for both sides. Both teams have lost their way defensively in recent weeks after slightly more positive spells, particularly on Barnsley's front. Neither of them have really got great goal scorers. Birmingham have looked nowhere near the goal threat since that first section of the season where they had the likes of Talif Chong involved. So I'm going to have to go fairly low scoring. I think people are going to expect loads of goals in this game. I think it's going to be really cagey. I think both teams are going to be petrified of losing. And I think Birmingham are going to nick it 1-0 because Barnsley, maybe those rusty legs will just get to them towards the end. It has for many other teams in recent weeks.
I don't know how they're going to do this. I'm going to go Barnsley to win 1-0. That's all I'm going to say because obviously
You're full of bold ones, aren't you?
I'm bold already. 3 games in and match day 28. I'm going bold already. Birmingham obviously not on good form. Off the field problems. Fans are protesting. Confidence is low. We both kind of knew that this would probably happen as well because obviously Fulham are on fire at the moment, and that's not on Birmingham. It's just the quality's not there at the moment for Birmingham. Barnsley haven't played for weeks, so they should be refreshed. Obviously, the new manager bounce hasn't arrived yet. He's had a lot of time now. Haven't really done anything in the market, which is quite surprising as well, considering they haven't really scored. Corley Woodrow's injured as well, and I'm still going for a 1-0 win for Barnsley. So we'll see how that one goes. Next up, it is Blackpool versus Millwall. Millwall lost today on to Nottingham Forest. Blackpool didn't play. So Millwall, 2 defeats in a row now. 3 defeats, in a row in all competitions. What's gone wrong for Millwall?
Well, I don't know that so much has gone wrong because they're only by the odd goal. And let's be fair, before that, they were largely draw specialists up to the last 6 games. And all of those, bar the Birmingham one at home at the start of December, have been won or lost by a goal. So I don't know that so much has gone wrong. They obviously had a period where their squad was very short over winter. A lot of players now coming back from COVID. And let's be fair, in the last 2 games in Palace and Forest, they played good sides. So it's not a complete disaster. Blackpool, obviously we mentioned last week, going out the FA Cup might be a little blessing in disguise just to make sure they can get over the line. Didn't get to play, obviously, because of the Barnsley situation. And I've got a sneaky suspicion they're going to nick this, But as soon as I saw this game, I immediately thought 1-1. But Blackpool have only drawn 2 of their 14 home games this season. They don't score many, but Millwall aren't at the moment either. So I'm going to go 1-0 Blackpool. I've got no logic behind it. It is my hunch of the weekend, but not as bold as any of yours so far.
I'm going to go Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1. I'm due a Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1 in these predictions. And I normally get them in the first 2, but 4 games in. No, Blackpool haven't played. Millwall, obviously, I'll say what's gone wrong with Millwall. It's more of, obviously, they lost late on to Forest, which they'll probably be a little bit heartbroken from that. Lost the last 2 at home as well, which normally could be a bit of a fortress down in New Den. So maybe, but again, the last away game, they lost to Bristol City, and Bristol City very rarely win at home. So it's a bit of a mixed match at the moment for Millwall. Blackpool, if they turn up on the day, they can be good, in and out of form as well. Only beating teams that are down there near the bottom of the Millwall mid-table at the moment. So I think 1-1 probably be a fair result. I think both teams will take it. Next up, it is Bournemouth versus Hull. Bournemouth lost in the 97th minute at the Kenny. Hull under new ownership. If we did a video on Hull's new ownership, please check that out in the eye above. Before the game, we would have said, oh, it's pretty much a home banker for Bournemouth, but Hull picked up a fantastic victory against Blackburn.
You've taken the start of my answer out of my mouth because a week ago I would have banked on a very big Bournemouth win. Now I'm not sure. Hull, that is certainly in the Championship or outside the Premier League, the best atmosphere I've seen at the Hull City Stadium for a long time. There's a bounce in the club. Even the fan reaction to our video yesterday, you can see that there's genuine fan excitement there, and whether or not it works out to be that way later down the line is another question, but you can't beat that feeling as a football fan. Bournemouth obviously have got the complete opposite of that, where they'd worked their way back into a game on TV after a big trip to get up to a lunchtime game and then thrown it away in the 97th minute, and they had 2 or 3 opportunities to clear that ball as well. They looked very poor in the first half, I've got to say that, though they did come back into it and were strong in the second. Ultimately, my head is telling me that Bournemouth will still win this game. I think Hull are going to make home a fortress, but I'm not sure that will replicate itself on the road. They're the 3rd worst team away from home, 11 points in 13 games, not even scored 10 goals yet away. I don't think it'll be big. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Bournemouth, but I wouldn't be shocked if Hull can get something out of this.
Let's get on to Hull. I'll go on Hull first. Great result Wednesday night, should I say. I think where obviously the new ownership bounds, the fans are buoyant. It felt like similar with Blackpool, similar with Newcastle, even though Newcastle haven't really picked up any points, but that fan atmosphere, but everyone's back in the ground and new owner, he spoke very well. And it's somehow worked straight away, which is fantastic. And obviously we'll get on to Blackburn later, but obviously that Championship does bring up a surprise result like that. And Hull did that. And hopefully that could be the moment they turn their season around and stay up in the Championship. So very pleased on that. Bournemouth, Bournemouth were very poor first half, very, very poor. Watched it back a few times, not just the Naismith goal, but I watched it the whole game. First half, they were running ragged. It makes a good side to come back into the game. My worry is for Bournemouth, not for this game, but probably for the rest of the season. If they do lose this game, is that moment of conceding 97 going to start to derail their season? I think Bournemouth will win this game. It'd be a lot tighter than anyone probably would think. I'm going to go 2-1 to Bournemouth. Next up, it's Coventry versus QPR. Coventry last game, they won away quite convincingly, 4-1 at Peterborough, and QPR left it late to beat West Brom. Charlie Austin with the late winner, but that's a really good response from Coventry because they have been a bit ropey lately, and they're back to that convincing win ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference, to be honest, Craig, is that we didn't predict them to win. So suddenly they're absolutely fantastic again. Is
that when the fans started moving us again?
I mean, look, every time we don't predict them to win, they get a result. So they should be delighted with us. So they'll be pleased to know I'm not predicting them to win this game, which will cheer them up and almost certainly guarantee them 3 points. It was the best Coventry performance in a long time, probably since November. But they're through in the cup. They've had a good win against Peterborough, and maybe they can start to build the season again and get back into that playoff mix, which they're only 5 points away with a couple of games in hand. QPR well in there, crucial late winner again. We talked about it so many times. Teams like QPR, Forest just quietly nicking goals and nicking 1-goal wins. And they took advantage of an average West Brom side to go above them with a game in hand too. So two sides who were very good in the last couple of games. I think ultimately they're going to cancel each other out because Coventry, very good going forward last weekend. QPR, weirdly good defensively this season. I'm going to go 0-0. And I know that's going to be bold, but I'm going to go 0-0. I can just see it being a quiet game where they both cancel each other out.
I'm so glad you said 0-0 because I was happy to say 1-1 in this game. Yeah, I think it'll be a tight affair. I think QPR will want to win it on a counter-attack. Coventry would probably be a bit more expansive at home. Yeah, I think Coventry needed that result. I think they needed to play Peterborough. I can't spit rude to say teams like Peterborough, but a team down the bottom, should I say, to get their confidence back up. QPR's confidence has always been there, winning late on. Charlie Austin winning it as well against his former side. So, yeah, the confidence is up at QPR again, still in the playoffs. I think, obviously, Coventry were just out the playoffs at the moment because, obviously, they lost their way a little bit. So, yeah, I'm going to go Championship favourite scoreline of 1-1. Right, next up, it's Reading versus Huddersfield. Reading lost 2-0 to Luton. And Huddersfield last weekend drew 1-1 with Swansea. Let's talk about Reading because, obviously, they played recently. They are awful.
At the moment, yes, they're in a difficult spell. Look, they've not got many players. They lost Andy Carroll last week, obviously, at the end of his contract. Look, I said this as soon as we saw the Reading lineup last night. The front six isn't bad, but that defence is so inexperienced. They've got so many key players out injured back there. And I mean it politely from watching the extended highlights of the Luton game, obviously. Every time Luton came forward, not necessarily a goal, but you knew it was going to end with Luton having a chance, a shot on goal. There was no chance of an interception, a block. Even basic things like blocking passing lanes just wasn't being done. And that really concerns me for Reading going forward. They're right in a race at the bottom. And look, they're in a mess off the pitch as well. So I don't think there's going to be much improvement to that squad. It's basically how quick they can get players back at this point, particularly defensively. Huddersfield, look, it wasn't the best performance against Swansea. They probably were just edged out in terms of general play, but they got a point. They're having a solid season. They're still up in 7th place, which people forget. And considering some people were talking about them relegation or in that mix earlier in the season, they've done a fabulous job. They're almost at the 50-point mark, and I think they have to consider it a massive success. I know we get the odd performance out of Reading, but they should be beating Reading. And any defensive players Reading bring back will be rushed back from injury. Huddersfield, Good away team this season, 17 points already. They're going to add to that. It could be any score, but I'm going to go for 3-1 to Huddersfield.
Looking at the way Reading play, they look a very, very short of confidence right now. I don't know how long Paunovic will stay in the job. I feel it's coming to an abrupt end. It looked like that on a Wednesday night. It really did. And Luton didn't really have to get out of second gear. Obviously, fans are not turning up. The stadium looked awful anyway on watching the highlights. I think Huddersfield will do them on the set piece. I really do. If Matty Pearson's fit and bullies the defence, I can see that happening. And I hope Matty Pearson scores as well, because he has been scoring lately. I'm going to go 3-0. Speaking of Reading's opponents from Wednesday, it's Luton Town. They are away to Sheffield United. You are going. Sheffield United lost 2-0. Sheffield United drew 2-2 with Preston last game. Had a 2-0 lead. Luton obviously played Reading. So Luton's first back-to-back win of the season. Could it be a triple?
Well, the thing that worried me, Craig, about Sheffield United was not the fact that they were 2-0 up. It's the fact that they went 2-0 up with a penalty that was a red card for Preston and left them a man down and 2 goals down, and they still blew it. And I mentioned to you the first few weeks, I was a bit worried about Paul Heckingbottom, thinking I'd really got it wrong. But I think we're starting to see maybe the limitations now, and that bounce over. And I'll be very intrigued to see how the rest of this season goes. Luton, as we mentioned, you can't really judge them on the Reading game because it was a very, very comfortable night. The Bournemouth game was terrific. My worry is after 4 or 5 weeks off, playing 3 games in a week, something that's been crucial to our attacking players, Cameron Jerome coming in alongside Adebayo. He's in his mid-30s. Is he going to be able to play 3 games in 7 days? I'm not sure. I think Sheffield United are going to have a poor second half of the year without signings, but they have got goals in them. So I don't see Luton keeping a clean sheet. I just want a thriller because I'm going. So I'm going for 2 apiece again, but I've got every expectation that it will be lower than that.
Yeah, I'm going to go Luton to win. Obviously, they're riding the wave of 2 straight victories. Sheffield United, okay, 3 straight wins and then a loss and a draw. I think the manner of the 2 results from the last week would be very worrying. Luton, on the other hand, I was worried before the Reading game, even though I predicted Luton to win 2-0 and correctly got that right. I was worried that like us Luton fans would keep watching the Naismith goal in every different commentary possible, and then we were going to get slapped by Reading, and we didn't. So that was a really pleasing thing about it. They carried on that way, looked controlled on the ball, played it around some lovely stuff, and Campbell gets 2-2, which is more than pleasing because he's been unbelievable lately. Good to see Kyoso back. He had his loan at Milton Keynes. I still think Luton will win this game as well. I said they're running away. I'm going to go 2-1, and that'll be a fantastic result at Bramall Lane.
I hope you're right.
Well, I hope so too. You're going there. Right, next up, it's Stoke City versus Fulham. Well, Fulham are just scoring for fun. It's the most in 88 years that they've scored 6 or more goals in 3 straight games. I really don't see Fulham scoring 6 at Stoke. So let's be brutally honest. I expect a really tight affair in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Fulham obviously just marking the first tennis Grand Slam of the year by trying to go for a straight sets victory, unfortunately for them. But do you know what? You've been bold near the start of this one, so I'm going to be bold now. Stoke's performance at Hull, I mean, you would have seen a bit of it on TV last Sunday, probably their most accomplished performance in a long time. And I know it was a Hull with off-the-pitch distractions at the time, but it was a fabulous performance. They could have scored 3, 4 or 5 on their day as well. Fulham, look, it's got to end eventually. And I know we've said this the last 2 match days too, but it has got to end eventually. Stoke will nullify them a little bit more. Mitrovic will have 2 very big centre-halves pinned on him at all points. And the only area I can see them really dominating is out wide, which they've still got talent in Harry Wilson, Cabano's on fire, etc. But I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for Stoke to win. I'm not going for a Michael O'Neill special of 1-0. But I am going to go for 2-1. Stoke are going to find their home form again. And Fulham, look, it's happened a couple of times this year. I just think they're going to have that little slip up.
I know we predicted Fulham to be in the playoffs at the start of the season. I do think they'll probably win the league. I think a draw will be a good result for them. I'll be brutally honest. Considering the week they've had, I don't think they're going to predict a 6-2. I think it's like 201 so for another 6-2. I'm going 1-1. I think Stoke will try and bully them. And I think Fulham will get really frustrated. I really do. Good to see Tom Ince back in form as well. He's scoring a few lately. I'm really happy with him because he's had a rough time. Yeah, 1-1 for me. 3 games to go. It's Swansea versus Preston at Liberty Stadium. It's home fans are back in Welsh stadiums, which is very good to hear. So Swansea will be buoyed by that. Preston, they'll be buoyed by a man down, not having a man down, but coming back from 2 goals down. So this could also be a tight affair.
Yeah, I've got to say, Preston and Ryan Lowe, I expected him to have a little bounce, but probably a little bit more than I expected. To have that attacking threat a man down is something you don't often see. And this is going to be a really interesting game because these are 2 managers who traditionally have a very similar blueprint. One is 3 or 4 months further down the road than the other, but Preston have had the benefit of been playing regularly and they're match fit. I do think Preston benefit from that, despite having played an hour with 10 men. It would have been a different story if they hadn't have got a result out of that. And Swansea, look, we've mentioned they've got a mistake in them at the back. Both teams have been goals galore at both ends recent weeks. It's going to be high scoring. It's going to be entertaining. 3-2 Preston.
Oh, no way. No way. Yeah, so Swansea obviously picked up that draw against Huddersfield. I think they were delighted. I think they were coming back from a goal down. So they've got late on Fulham downs with the goal. So, yeah, I think they'd be happy with that. Obviously, Huddersfield are doing all right at the moment. Preston, yeah, excellent. Credit. Yeah, he's obviously turned them around a little bit. Results are starting to show as well, so that's pleasing. I'm going to go Swansea to nick it. I said it's going to be a tight affair. I really do think it's going to be a tight affair. And it's literally a flip of a coin. I'm going to just go for Swansea to nick it 1-0. Right, the final game on Saturday is West Bromwich Albion versus Peterborough at the Hawthorns. West Brom lost late on to QPR. Peterborough lost 4-1 at home to Coventry. I think for Peterborough, looking at results around in the table, they need to start picking up points. They need to start winning games away from home. Where do you see it coming?
Look, I certainly wouldn't see it coming away from home. I think that's fair to say this season. And the fact that they lost 4-1 at home is so damaging for me against a side that weren't in great form too. Because away from home, look, the only game they've won is away at Hull right near the start of the season. They've got 3 points in 12 games. They've scored 6 and let in 33. And I know I keep pulling that up, but even a West Brom side who are out of form, that haven't won in 5 in all competitions, that have scored 2 goals in those 5 games, surely they've got enough. This is Daryl DK's reckoning day, Craig. I had to get him in there. He's going to score 2. West Brom are going to win by 3. Are they going to concede? Yes, 3-1 West Brom, but Peterborough, I'm really worried for them. They've got to take advantage of their home games in hand.
Yeah, they need to pick up points. I can't see it away at West Brom. Even though West Brom have been rubbish, I say it harsh saying rubbish. They've been very poor to watch all season, really. I think West Brom will win this game. I'm going to go 2-0 to West Brom. And the final game is on Monday Night Football. It is Blackburn Rovers versus Middlesbrough. I would say 2 teams on really good form, but Blackburn surprise defeat at Hull.
Yeah, and more worryingly than that is the fact that they'll be devastated this game's moved to Monday because it means Ben Brereton-Diaz won't be available. He'll be away on international duty, and that is going to make things very difficult. I'm not going to read too much into the whole game because I think that was just a culmination of events. It's the equivalent of a new manager bounce, I would have said. So I'm not worried about that. I am worried about the fact that they're playing possibly the informed team of the league, bar Fulham in Middlesbrough, who have been absolutely scintillating, nicking late winners everywhere. They've not been vintage in some of these games, but in terms of getting over the line, all of their last 3 games in all competitions won by a goal. Before that, 3 clean sheets in a row. They've done a mix of the dirty stuff and the beautiful stuff when they've needed to win. They're into the playoff places now. I don't see them going down from there. Oh, this is a really tough game to predict. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be entertaining. And I think Blackburn will be better, but I'm going to just edge Middlesbrough by 2-1. And I wouldn't be shocked if it's late again.
I think Middlesbrough will nick it. I really do. I think Middlesbrough are playing some really good football. Chris Wilder has completely turned them around because the last couple of games on the Warnock, it wasn't really there. They had a few injuries as well at the same time. They're nicking it late on. It probably wasn't pretty last game, but they got over the line. I'm going to go for Middlesbrough win as well, but it will be... I don't know what I'm going to go for now because you probably just scored on with it. I'm going to go 1-0 to the Borough. And let's have a quick recap. What we predicted for match day 28, I've gone extremely bold. on a 7-side goalless draw, and Barnsley nicking it at Birmingham. Daniel Cody's bold prediction of the weekend. Ooh, what would you say is his bold predictions of the weekend?
Fulham losing probably at the moment.
Yeah, Fulham losing at Stoke 2-1. And those are predictions for matchday 28. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section and give us your predictions for this weekend's action. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football 3. And we'll see you next time.